So we're going to go ahead and get started. One of our board members is going to be late. She's stuck in traffic on the freeway due to rain and a little accident. So we're just going to go ahead and get started. Good morning. Welcome to the disciplinary hearings of the Board of Vocational Nursing and Psychiatric Technicians. This meeting is being held on Thursday, November 16th, 2017 at the Department of Consumer Affairs Hearing Room South 102 at 1625 North Market Boulevard. I want to call this meeting to order. I'm Tammy Endozo, Board President, and we'll have the board members introduce themselves starting at my far right.
Cheryl Turner, Public Member. Samantha James Perez, Psychiatric Technician Member.
Paula Amazola, Public Member.
John Deerking, Public Member.
Paul Sellers, Psychiatric Technician Member.
Good morning. Before I turn the meeting over to the Administrative Law Judge, Timothy Aspinwall, who will preside over the hearings, I would like to thank the schools and all of the members of the public who have joined us today. For the sake of time, I will not be introducing those who have signed in, but we appreciate your presence. Part of calling this meeting to order includes the Pledge of Allegiance. Could I please ask everyone to stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance as led by my fellow board member, Samantha?
Of the United States of America.
Thank you. This brings us to public comment. Individuals may appear before the board at this time to discuss items not on the agenda. The board may not discuss or take any action on any item raised during this public comment section except to decide whether to place the matter on the agenda of a future meeting. And this is per Government Code Sections 11125 and 11125.7a. And as a reminder, please conduct yourself in a professional manner while making comments. I must insist that all of those who wish to comment direct their comments to the board members and refrain from personal attacks, profanity, or threatening behavior. It's helpful for the record if you would state your name and the name of the organization you represent. However, you may remain anonymous if you wish. And thank you for your comments. As stated previously, the board cannot take action on any issues raised during public comment. However, you are welcome to provide board staff with this information for action at a future board meeting. Any public comment? Seeing none, the purpose of the hearings today is for the board to consider petitions for reinstatement of licenses that have been revoked by the board. These proceedings are a serious matter and proper decorum must be maintained. Please take a moment to ensure that your phones are turned off or in silent mode. Also, please make sure that you keep as quiet as possible during the hearings and that you may refrain from making comments or expressions that may disrupt the hearings. Your cooperation in keeping these proceedings orderly is appreciated. And one of the petitioners has canceled, so we will not be hearing that today. I will now turn the meeting over to the Administrative Law Judge to begin the hearings.
Good morning. My name is Timothy Aspinwall. I am the judge who will preside over these hearings regarding the petitions for reinstatement and probation relief. We are on the record. The record should show that we have a quorum of board members here, and that the Attorney General's office is also present. And would you please introduce yourself, Mr. McGee?
Thank you, Your Honor. My name is Daniel McGee. I'm a Deputy Attorney General, and welcome everyone.
And is there also another Deputy Attorney General who will be present?
There is, Your Honor. That's my colleague, Deputy Attorney General Summer Haro, who is sitting behind me.
Okay, welcome. Welcome to the petitioners. Welcome to the observers. I'm going to address a few comments to the petitioners, and I will read out your names for the record. The first petitioner who is not present and whose matter is off calendar is Adela Slagle. Then we will proceed in the order of Stephanie Guerrero, Leif Camerad, Christique Bright, Beatrice Lamb, Idowu Lawrence, Jennifer LaRue, and Jamie Eagle. My comments to each of you at this point are that these proceedings concern your rehabilitation since the prior discipline. You are seeking relief from prior discipline. You should focus your comments on the things you have done to establish rehabilitation since the prior discipline. Do not, and I repeat, do not attempt to relitigate the prior discipline. Procedurally, just as a matter of orientation, the Deputy Attorney General will first present a case summary to the board, which includes your petition package. I will mark that and admit it into evidence. After that summary by the Deputy Attorney General, you will then have an opportunity to testify under oath, as well as asking any witnesses you may have to testify on your behalf. At that point, the board members and the Deputy Attorney General will have an opportunity to question you and any witnesses you have called. After the hearings, the board will go into closed session to deliberate and reach a decision. You will not receive a decision today, but will receive it in the mail. That closes my introductory comments. Is Ms. Stephanie Guerrero present? Please step forward to the table, introduce yourself. And I think you'll need to turn on the microphone and pull it toward you.
Hi, good morning. I'm Stephanie Guerrero.
Thank you, Ms. Guerrero. And did you hear the orienting comments I just gave? Okay. Do you have any questions? And Mr. McGee, would you present a summary of the case?
Yes, I am Daniel McGee. I'm a Deputy Attorney General, and first a preliminary statement. I am appearing on behalf of the Attorney General pursuant to Government Code Section 11522, representing the people of the state of California. I am here to assist the panel in fact-finding. My role is not adversarial, but is intended to protect the public interest. I am here to ensure that the panel has adequate information from which to make a decision. And before we get into a summary, Your Honor, would you like me to run through the petition packet?
Yes, please.
Okay, so first I would like to mark for identification and offer into evidence as Exhibit 1 the original petition packet, and I've also provided Your Honor with a redacted copy, of course, which is ultimately to be entered into evidence. That just redacts personal identifying information, so to speak, which is hardly relevant. The board members and petitioner have been provided with a copy of the same set of this exhibit, and Exhibit 1 generally consists of a cover page summary of the matter, a table of contents, At Section A, we have petitioner's petition for reinstatement and the documents in support, and those generally consist of petitioner's petition dated October 2nd, 2017, a copy of petitioner's driver's license and social security card, an outline of petitioner's work history and rehabilitation programs, a certificate of completion for the Cedar House Life Change Residential Treatment Program, case information for People versus Guerrero, San Bernardino County Superior Court case number FSB 1002130, an April 16th, 2015 letter by Andy Helm of the Inland Temporary Homes Program certifying that petitioner and her children have successfully completed a shelter and transition housing program. 8 letters of recommendation and support authored by various persons, including, among others, letters by Marie Joseph, the director of John Beck Care, petitioner's former employer, a May 1st, 2017 letter by petitioner sponsor, Levon Crowther, and an undated letter by Andrea Pansarella, petitioner supervisor at the Monte Vista Care Center. At Section B, we have the certification for vocational nurse license number VN 239199. At Section C, we have the notice for this hearing and all related correspondence. At Section D, we have the board's underlying decision revoking the petitioner's license, which was effective October 3rd, 2013. And at this time, Your Honor, I would offer this packet into evidence as Exhibit 1.
The packet is marked and admitted as Exhibit 1.
Thank you. And now I'd like to provide the brief summary of petitioner's license history with the board.
Please do.
On December 26, 2008, the board issued vocational nurse license number VN 239199 to petitioner. The license expired on September 30th, 2014. Prior to the expiration of petitioner's license, the board, on June 15th, 2012, filed accusation number VN-2011-221 against petitioner. The accusation alleged 3 causes for discipline against petitioner for conviction of substantially related crime, dishonest acts, and unprofessional conduct/acts violating the act. The gravamen of the accusation was that the petitioner was convicted of obtaining aid, namely Medi-Cal insurance benefits, via misrepresentation, a violation of Welfare and Institutions Code Section 10980, subsection C2, and this was a misdemeanor. This conviction occurred on or about July 6, 2011. Petitioner contested the accusation, and the matter was heard by an administrative law judge on May 13, 2013. At the time of hearing, evidence concerning respondents' then ongoing problems with methamphetamine and alcohol was taken. On May 30th, 2013, the administrative law judge issued his proposed decision revoking petitioner's license. The board adopted the proposed decision on September 3rd, 2013, and petitioner's license was revoked effective October 3rd, 2013. Petitioner is now petitioning for reinstatement of that license. In this regard, if reinstatement is to be granted, then the order must include term 24 requiring reexamination for licensure, given the lapse of time. It is also worth noting that on August 11th, 2014, the San Bernardino Superior Court dismissed petitioner's 2011 conviction pursuant to Penal Code Section 1203.4 and related law. And because the petitioner is on, the burden is on petitioner, I have no further statements at this time, but reserve the right to question petitioner.
Okay. Ms. Guerrero, do you wish to testify in this matter? Then let me swear you in. If you'll stand and raise your right hand, please. You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Please be seated and tell the board members what you would like to say. And you need to pull the microphone toward you a little bit and just say what you have to say. And the board members may have some questions of you, as may Mr. McGee. But it's important for you to I know, relax to the extent you can and say what you have to say. It's it can be an intimidating process. So take your time, get your thoughts together, and bring together your presence of mind sufficiently to say what you really need to say. Okay?
Okay,
Thank you. Now is your time.
Well, first, good morning, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be here. And I wanted to say that he went over that the charge was dismissed and that the criminal record was cleared by the Department of Public Health also. And if anything, this experience has changed my life for the better. I have been in the treatment program and continue that treatment. Some of my past decisions were not what a nurse's, life should be. However, going through this program and learning the life experiences that I got to learn from that makes me more confident and much wiser that when I get that license back and practice nursing, that I will be able to carry that out in my entire career. I am extremely nervous, so I'm sorry. Okay. I believe I should be reinstated. I have had the passion for nursing since Band-Aids on teddy bears. And, I have been blessed with multiple jobs that are all willing to rehire me once my license is reinstated. Sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. What I was saying was that I believe that I would be a good candidate for reinstatement. I have met all the requirements, like I said, and the lessons I've learned are lifelong and just irreplaceable. And
So just focus on staying close to the microphone and speaking slowly. People tend to speak little more quickly when they're nervous, and also tend to withdraw from the microphone when they're nervous.
I'm sorry.
So just go along at a very methodical pace and say what you have to say slowly. So
Okay.
because the court reporter has to take down every word you say, and the board members need to hear what you have to say in order to know what questions they might want to ask of you.
Okay.
So go ahead.
Is this better this way? Okay. I'm not sure what was heard or not. But like I've gotten the opportunity to work in various different areas now, and I'm just very confident that my skills in nursing will be a good investment. I'm sorry, I'm not sure what else to say.
Okay. Well, the board members may have some questions of you at this point. Mr. Sellers, do you have any questions?
Yeah, are you currently living in a shelter, or are you living in a residence?
Oh, I'm independent now.
Or independent?
Yes.
Okay. Have you achieved 4 years of sobriety?
4 years and 4 days.
Years and 4 days. 4 years and 4 days. I'm getting a sign to speak up myself. I'm sorry. And what is your intention if you receive your license? What are your plans to practice?
I have my last employer has already offered me a job pending that approval, and I also wish to continue my education.
Are they aware there may be restrictions on your license?
They are.
All my questions at this time. Thank you.
Mr. Deerking.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Guerrero, what is your sobriety date?
It's on November 12th, 2013.
Okay, the reason I asked that question is at the time of the previous hearing, you indicated your sobriety date was July 4th, 2012. Why is there a discrepancy?
That was my clean date at that time. It has changed.
So you had a relapse.
In 2012, yes.
Okay. And also, it was the finding, based on your testimony and other evidence that may have been brought forth at the time, that you have been abusing drugs and alcohol since a very young age.
Yes, sir.
Would you agree then that a condition of long standing requires some time for rehabilitation?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, how are you restoring yourself to what they refer to as a previous state of sanity?
Oh, I see. Well, recovery has to be a priority for me, and it is a priority. Even after rehab treatment, I still continue to have, a set amount of meetings that I go to personally, 3 to 4 times a week. I work with a sponsor, we work steps, and I'm also of service in those meetings. And that's the recovery process for me.
Did you have a inpatient treatment?
Yes, I did.
How long was the treatment?
It was about 4 months and 2 weeks. I went in November 12th, 2013 and left March 5th, 2014. And then I went into another treatment, but it was transitional until December of 2014.
So after the previous hearing, then you had a relapse.
Yes.
Do you have any idea what the precipitating trigger was at that time?
I believe I was not working a continuous program.
Have you worked the program since?
I have.
So you're familiar with the 12 steps?
I am.
And have you had occasion to work through the steps maybe more than once?
I am on my second. Yeah. I work with, her name is Lavon Crawler.
Say that again.
Her name is Lavon Crawler.
Who's
Crawler.
your sponsor?
She's my sponsor. We work the steps together, her and I.
So given what might be considered a trigger of a period of unemployment, how are you prepared to move forward to make sure that you don't relapse again?
Well, as long as I continue what I'm doing right now, I will be successful given any struggle or hurdle. That's kind of what the recovery process is, teaching you how to live life on a daily basis.
Can you tell us about your support network currently?
I have, well, like I said, I have my sponsor. I also have a fiance and my 2 children. And then I have amazing friends in recovery. I also am still very close with my caseworkers that I had both in Cedar House and Inland Temporary Homes, and it's just amazing the support I've received from them. A lot of family as well.
I have nothing else, Your Honor.
Ms. Amazola.
I have no questions at this time.
Ms. Mendoza.
Just have one. So you said that you had an offer from your current employer. What type of facility is that, or is it like a registry, or?
It's DDN facilities. It's developmentally disabled age houses.
Okay. So it's not like a registry or anything?
No.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
Ms. James Perez.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning.
Good morning.
Similar to what Mr. Deerking was asking, I also noticed that you did enter rehab in 2013 after your previous hearing.
I did.
So you said that you did have a relapse. Was that of alcohol?
It was.
And your sponsor that you have now, I see that she wrote you a letter on page 825, so I did read that. How often do you talk with your sponsor, connect with her?
About daily. Yeah.
And what are you guys working on right now, like last time you talked?
We're working on, we're working through the traditions of Narcotics Anonymous.
Yes.
Oh, we're working
sorry?
on the traditions of Narcotics Anonymous. Goes on, they pair with the steps of Narcotics Anonymous.
If you were to find yourself in a situation, if you were to be working as a nurse again, you and I both know that's a demanding job and it can be stressful, and you were tempted to use substances or use alcohol, what would you do? What would be the first thing that you did?
The first thing I would do is call my sponsor.
On page A9, which is in your packet, you wrote an answer to the question, why should the board grant your petition for reinstatement? And you said, I've learned many important lessons in the past few years. What are some of those lessons that you've learned?
Well, to be perfectly honest, when I originally lost my license, it was a little more than just a career. And, there was a house and a car and, all those monetary things. And since my admission to, treatment and learning how to live, those lessons of money management and time management and organization and all those things I learned to do as a woman, as a mom, those things were all product of a very large mistake that I'll be able to carry those lessons with me no matter where I go.
Sure. And further on it says, I am a productive member of society now. That's what you wrote in your petition. And we know that nurses are a critical part of community and a part of society and a profession that's trusted by the public. What does being a productive member of society, what does that mean in your life?
Well, for one, it means being honest, never making those mistakes of unnecessary mistakes. And then also being able, I work with in-home support services, and being able to be responsible, productive, being able to be punctual, being able to be counted on, and fulfill obligations. That's all productive member of society.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Turner?
Yes, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
So first of all, I want to congratulate you on moving to have your conviction dismissed through the court system. But I would also like to talk or hear you talk about what you learned about the issue of the Medi-Cal problem that you had, what you did wrong, whether you realized that was the wrong thing to do, and how you see things today regarding those issues.
Right. Well, there was no excuse for lying, period. And I have been made aware of multiple options to get medical insurance for my children. I believe at this time that I made the decision that I made, I did not put forth much effort into finding any other options. And now they still actually get Medi-Cal. However, when I'm very, we have a very open line of communication and, turning in pay stubs and all those things. I never avoid any of that. I make sure that I fulfill everything they ask for within the time, days that they asked for it. And I don't lie on anything at all.
Did you say that you're qualified for Medi-Cal now?
I do. They
But
still
you,
qualify.
but you
under-
did not back then? And-
I did not.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Ms. Carpenter? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. McGee, do you have questions?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Guerrero, in terms of your ongoing recovery, do you feel like you had a breakthrough on any particular step?
Oh, I worked this each step to the best of my ability at the time, and I believe that spiritual awakening has and step 12 has really taken place in my life.
Okay, and in terms of a 12 support or a 12-step support meeting, are you attending Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous?
I attend both fellowships.
You do?
I do.
How often a week do you attend meetings?
Alcoholics Anonymous I attend once a week, and Narcotics Anonymous I attend twice a week.
Okay, and what are your home groups, if any?
There's actually a small church around the corner from my house, and that's my home group.
Okay, and that's where both the NA and the AA meetings meet?
Yes.
And how about what's your favorite step and why?
My favorite step?
If you have one.
That would be step number 2, and that one is about your higher power and discovering a higher power of your own understanding, which I have done and has brought much freedom to my life.
And you mentioned you are in service in the program. Could
I
you
am.
could you tell us about your service obligations?
We have different service commitments. They can be anything from making coffee, welcoming people come in, giving out chips. I personally like to be part of the activities where we get to go to big events and put on activities for other people in different areas.
How about your home life? How is that right now? And I ask this because in the underlying decision, recall at your husband at that time had problems with substance abuse and alcohol also. And how is your home life today in terms of support in your recovery?
Well, he actually was very supportive in my recovery. I try to support his as well. He is remarried. He has more children. He sees the kids regularly. We have a pretty productive relationship. The kids are pretty happy with it. We have shared custody, and it's been that way, I think, about 8 years now.
You're living in a sober household?
Yes.
Okay. And in your petition, you state, and this is a quote, I have worked hardest to correct and make amends for my wrongs. What do you mean by that?
I make sure that I let everybody know, especially my employers, what I did, and I make sure that they know that everything I say and write down is the truth. I try to make amends by advising other people as well how important honesty is.
Can't quite hear you.
I'm sorry. I try to advise others as well as how important that honesty is in finding resources and reaching out when there's a problem or you need help. Reaching out instead of trying to solve that in a dishonest manner.
Do you happen to sponsor any women?
I do not right now.
Okay, have you ever?
No.
So since the date of your license being revoked until today, have you been convicted of any crimes of which we're somehow unaware?
No.
And if reinstatement is to be granted, how should the board feel comfortable that you're not going to engage in like behavior that led to the revocation of your license in the first place?
I'm willing to do whatever the board requests to make sure that happens.
And have you done anything to stay abreast of the field of vocational nursing since the date your license was revoked?
Just some online studies. I've made arrangements contingent on the decision. I have made arrangements from a counselor at Summit Vocational School where I was originally licensed to take refresher courses.
Thank you, Ms. Guerrero. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Do any of the board members have follow-up questions?
I have one.
Mr. Dick.
Have you heard the phrase, my best thinking got me here?
I have.
Can you tell us perhaps give an example about how your thinking is differently now from how it was when you were caught in an active cycle of addiction?
Well, the first thing I do now is it's a 5 second rule. You don't respond to anything in emotion. You know, you count to five. Usually, I'll call someone, tell someone like any sort of problem or anything that's distressing, and I share about it in meetings so that those things don't ever get that big. Not like before. There's just after making it out of that lifestyle the way I did, I believe that nothing is as bad as it was then.
All right, thank you.
Any other follow-up questions by the board? Okay, and do you have any other witnesses you want to call?
No, sir.
Okay, then that concludes the petition hearing in this matter. The Exhibit 1 has been admitted into evidence, and the record in this matter is closed, and the case is submitted. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
The next matter is Leif Kamrad. If Mr. Kamrad can step forward. Welcome, Mr. Kamrad. And did you hear the we're going to take just a couple minutes before we start your case, okay? So just relax, sit tight. That's okay.
Hi.
Right there, ASPIN. Would it be okay if what? Absolutely. Yeah, sit where you need to sit.
One with each. Sure, sir.
I have a long life battery, so I didn't notice.
packages are these. Just leave them up there. I don't want to disrupt your flow.
It's hard to do this when you're nervous.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. Well, welcome to my world as an attorney. Copy for yourself. Start handing this out.
Yeah. I don't know if these are. I brought my. Word wants them, so sorry. I won't.
Oh, was that you? Oh, I'm sorry.
That's good.
Was that you who were telling me that the best value in their business model is they take over failing?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I see that.
And you'll see like a Best Western shaped sign,
Yeah.
and then they have their.
Oh, thank you.
Petitioner.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had hot and cold. We did a trip across the country.
Yeah.
This will
Yeah.
become an exhibit too.
Depends on how bad it was. They came.
During your presentation, I'll make an introduction.
Folks down there are nice enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think
Good
each
luck.
one of them are privately owned, and then they rebrand. Money out
Yeah.
of this old thing, then it's a pretty scary proposition if it's somebody.
I just saw the difference in, how should I say, character with their sheriff.
I'm ready, Your Honor.
surprised to hear that from them. They're usually a reason.
Oh yeah.
Your only impression. Surprised they let them get away with it. Take much to give you.
Okay, we're back on the record, and Mr. Camrad is before us on a petition for reinstatement. And Mr. Camrad, did you hear the basic orientation comments that I gave to the other?
Yes.
Okay, and you too will need to keep the microphone close to you and speak up. So you heard my introduction. Do you have any questions regarding the introductory comments?
No questions.
Okay. And Mr. McGee, do you have any comments and review that you would like to go through?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. And good morning, Mr. Cameron. I'm Daniel McGee, Deputy Attorney General. We met earlier today, and same general statement. I'm appearing on behalf of the Attorney General pursuant to Government Code Section 11522, representing the people of the state of California. I'm here only to assist the panel in fact-finding, and my role is not adversarial, but is merely intended to protect the public interest. And I'm here to ensure that the panel has adequate information from which to make a decision. And at this time, I would like to first mark for identification and offer into evidence as Exhibit 1 the original petition packet with the accompanying documents. And as before, we also provided a redacted copy. The board members and petitioner have been provided with a copy of the same set of this exhibit. And Exhibit 1 generally consists of the cover page and the summary of the case, a table of contents. At Section A is petitioner's petition for reinstatement and the supporting documents, and those generally consist of petitioner's petition dated June 1st, 2017, a July 2016 certificate of completion for parent training course through the Love and Logic Institute, an October 24th, 2011 certificate of achievement for successful completion of the Humboldt County Alcohol and Other Drug Programs Outpatient Treatment Program. Next is a 2015-2016 certificate of scholarship from the College of the Redwoods. Next is transcripts and academic evaluations from the College of the Redwoods. We also have 4 letters of support recommendation, including a May 15th, 2017 letter by Supervised Visitation Provider John R. Burke. Next are Quest Diagnostic Drug Testing Reports dated March 9th, 2017, April 27th, 2017, June 22nd, 2017, and August 2nd, 2017. Each test utilized hair samples and ostensibly tested negative. And finally, we have documents pertaining to the Penal Code Section 1203.4 dismissal and sealing of respondents' underlying criminal convictions. Next, at the petition package, at Section B, we have the certification for vocational nurse license number VN 224525. At Section C is the notice for this hearing and all related correspondence. And that being the entirety of the packet that I am offering, I would like to offer it into evidence as Exhibit 1.
We also have a Section D. That is in the copy I'm looking at.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. And at Section D would be the board's underlying 2012 decision, and that was revoking petitioner's license by way of defaults.
And you're offering this Exhibit 1 into evidence?
Yes, Your Honor.
Exhibit 1 is admitted into evidence. And Mr. Camera, this is your opportunity to testify, and
Your Honor, actually, I would like to read the brief summary of the case
thank you. Go
for
ahead.
the board.
Yes.
So as to a brief background, on November 30th, 2006, the board issued vocational nurse license number VN 224525 to petitioner. The license expired on November 30th, 2012. Prior to the expiration of petitioner's license, the board, on November 1st, 2011, filed accusation number VN-2008-2652 against petitioner. The accusation alleged 5 causes for discipline against petitioner for 1. Act involving dishonesty, 2. Conviction of substantially related crimes, 3. Illegal possession and self-administration of controlled substances, 4. Dangerous use of alcohol, and 5. Conviction involving narcotics, a dangerous drug, or alcohol. The accusation alleged that respondent, while working as a director of staff development at St. Luke's Healthcare and Rehabilitation, diverted narcotics prescribed to patients. This occurred on various occasions in late 2008 and early 2009. The accusation also alleged that in 2011, the Humboldt County Superior Court on 3 separate occasions convicted respondent of substantially related crimes. These included misdemeanor driving under the influence, obtaining controlled substances by fraud, a felony, and reckless driving, which involved the use of alcohol, a misdemeanor. The accusation also alleged as a disciplinary consideration that in 1999, a Montana court convicted the petitioner of DUI. Petitioner failed to file a notice of defense in response to the accusation, and the board entered an order of default on May 21st, 2012. Consequently, petitioner's license was revoked effective June 20th, 2012. Costs were not ordered. Petitioner is now petitioning for reinstatement. In so doing, he has provided, among other things, documents demonstrating the dismissal of his convictions pursuant to Penal Code Section 1204.03.4. Finally, it should be noted that if reinstatement is to be granted, then the order must include Term 24, requiring the reexamination for licensure due to lapse of time. And because the petitioner, the burden is on petitioner, I have no further statements at this time, but would reserve my right to ask questions, and I will turn matters over to petitioner at this time. And on a word of note for that, the petitioner has produced additional documents today that he will go over with the board.
Okay, Mr. Cameron, this is your opportunity to testify and to present documents. Do you have any witnesses who will be testifying today?
I don't.
Okay, so if you will stand, I will swear you in. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay. All right, and please be seated and tell us what you have to say. Again, focusing on rehabilitation and what you have done since the discipline was imposed. And you'll need to stay close to the microphone again.
I want to first apologize to everybody in this room. What I did was embarrassing. Being in the healthcare field, I have an integrity that I'm supposed to uphold, and I did not do that. I did not handle the situation the way I was supposed to. I was not sure if I would be sitting in front of you, being able to do this today. Since then, I've worked extremely hard to rectify my personal life. I've done hair testing that's stretched back to a year. I've earned 2 Associate of Science degrees this last summer. I continue with NA meetings every week. I go to a psychologist every week as of June. I've been seeing her since January. I was recently accepted into Humboldt State University and will be attending in the fall. I am currently enrolled in classes as we speak, and I'm currently employed by our local PBS station as an auction coordinator and writing scripts for materials that local businesses donate.
Didn't quite hear what you just said.
I'm currently employed with and I have been for the last couple of years, with a public PBS, our local PBS station, and my title is auction coordinator, which I take local businesses' items, we put them on there, and I am responsible for writing scripts for those items. I have been sober from pain medicine, have not had a history prior 6/1 of 2010, and alcohol of 10/1 2015. I had a longer speech and I just...
Is there anything more you want to say?
I don't.
You brought some documents
Yeah.
for the board to look at, which I have marked collectively as Exhibit 2. And do you wish to discuss these documents at all?
Sure. Now the documents that I have brought before you is a letter from my psychologist of stating when I first started to see her. Losing a license, you do get put on the Office of Inspector General list, which is extremely hard to get off of, and I received a letter from Washington, D.C. Of my reinstatement, and then a copy of both my degrees that I earned last summer. I know one of them is licensed vocational nursing, but in 2006 I only received the certificate, and I did take extra classes to just leave the school with a degree, also with a degree in computer information systems. I have continued my drug testing with the other 2, and if you notice the lapse in month, the agency told me that a hair test can go back 2 to 3 months. And then I also have a receipt. It's called Hearst Live. It's actually something I've been studying. It's a virtual, the virtual modules online that I can actually study for, and I have since October to polish on possible nursing skills that I have been out of. That's what I have in my packet.
Okay. Any further comments before the board asks questions of you?
I don't have any more comments.
Mr. Sellers, do you have any questions of Mr. Cameron?
Yes, good afternoon, or good morning, Mr. Cameron. So I have a little bit of discrepancy here in your application on page 8.6. It asks you if you attend any support groups, and you say no, that you attended in the past. You just said that you attend NA regularly twice a week. Why is there a discrepancy there?
Because with the NA meetings, I had periodically attended. Since this application process, I have attended once a week. My sponsor is actually, I work with him every day at PBS, and he is the one that brought me into NA meetings. I'm a bit of a recluse. It's very hard to be in large situations, and previous meetings that I've gone to is it was extremely hard to be around, and he brought me in. It was a small group, and it's worked out for me. That's the reason for the discrepancy.
So you get nervous in these large groups?
Yeah.
So the way I'm reading this, it looks like you got your license revoked on 6/12, and but your alcohol sobriety date is for 10/1/2015.
That's correct.
So that's almost 3.5 years between the time that your license is revoked to when you seek recovery.
Yeah, I separated the pain medicines with the alcohol. With the use of the narcotics, when I left and being physically dependent on those, I developed. I started to drink to just get through withdrawals.
Okay. So how much sobriety do you have right now of alcohol and
Since October
how
2015,
much time
everything.
is that?
That's 3 years. That'll be 3 years. That's 2 years.
Why did you say you're unsure you could be here today? Is that the? Oh, let me have you answer that.
Sure. I was extremely ashamed to just be in front of everybody here. I watched numerous webcasts of the presentations, and this is a very intimidating environment, and I want to be honest with you, and that's.
It can be a bit of an inquisition. I agree. Congratulations on your accomplishments in school. That's outstanding. What do you? So one. How you say now you're going weekly to NA, twice a week to NA? Did I hear you say that, or weekly?
Yeah, weekly, Tuesday. It's a Finding Freedom meeting in Eureka, California, on Sonoma Street on the First Methodist Church. Finding Freedom is called the meeting. It's a First Methodist Church in on Sonoma Street in Eureka, and then I also go. I've increased. I do see a psychologist as well.
So when did you start attending these meetings?
I started attending in June.
And have you had the opportunity to work your way through the steps?
I have. I've actually worked my way back through step 8 because it's, for me in a small community, to make amends is extremely hard when I've disappointed so many people. It's easy to accept what I've done, but it's hard to accept the things and the pain that I've caused other people, and that's a step that I will revisit for the rest of my life.
And finally, what are you currently studying? You said you were starting at starting at
Yep.
Humboldt State. What are you currently studying?
So I got into a program. It's interdisciplinary studies with an emphasis on leadership, and plus I can do a minor in computer science at Humboldt State University. I think with the leadership program, it'll help a little bit with my personality. I don't think I have the highest self-esteem or confidence, but I think that would be a beneficial thing for me to put myself into uncomfortable positions.
Okay, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Mr. Deerking?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Camera, thank you for being here. One of the challenges that I have, especially when there's been a revocation by default, is an evaluation of the credibility or the character of the licensee. And that's a challenge for me because character and integrity are essential characteristics to any professional nurse. You agree with that?
I do.
So I'm looking here on your petition for reinstatement, and you said that you have made great strides or significant strides. Are you referring to what, your own recovery?
Yeah, recovery and just trying to take the steps as far as engrossing myself with education, the only thing I can do is the only ability I have is to gain more education as far as learning more about addiction, and also education for me is a little bit of a purpose too.
Okay, and the reason I say that is if there's been some call into question of a nurse's character, then what is required for me, in my judgment, is to have some kind of rehabilitation of that character. So what I would look for are certain steps that the candidate or licensee has taken. Counseling, you've done that. Evidence of insight into the behavior that led to discipline in the first place, because there was a pattern with respect to St. Luke's, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And what was going on there at St. Luke's?
So it's really hard. I don't want to make any type of hint of an excuse. I was part of a relationship that that is copacetic at this point, but it wasn't very good at the time. Working long hours, that dishonesty that I partook in helped me work longer, more hours, and then it turned into something that I had to maintain physically.
Are you talking about an interpersonal relationship?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And you may have heard me ask before, have you ever heard the statement, my best thinking got me here?
I actually have not heard that statement.
Okay.
I haven't.
That's okay. Would you say you're thinking differently now than you were when you were caught up in the throes of addiction?
Yeah. So after that, after everything happened, it seemed a lot of these instances happened to me within a short span. I ended up getting divorced. I lived in a tent for a couple months. I did lose my children, and being homeless, and when you put yourself in Maslow's hierarchy, and the one thing you have to worry about is food is a hard thing, and so to lose your children and be in that situation, and to have that into my psyche at all times, and to ever go back to that is probably one of the most painful things I could ever go back to. So if I did learn from it, I mean 100%, ever experience something like that again was something I don't plan on to do in the future.
I understand that. My question is, what steps are you taking today that perhaps you were not before, especially with respect to triggers?
Sure. Seeing my psychologist more, which has increased. It's I actually get to see her once a week now. I have the availability to call her at any time. I get to talk to my sponsor every day when I go to work. Any type of triggers, we talk. In fact, my whole job actually knows the situation I'm in, and for me to hold this in, I guess, and to be ashamed about it and not tell people about it actually made me more sick. So to be honest and tell everybody that I had done, and to be honest with them actually has helped. And to continue going to the meetings with my sponsor that I work with, to continue the psychology appointments, to continue the hair testing. The only thing that I can do is prove to you what I've done instead of just say what I'm going to do.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Amazola.
Hi, thank you so much for coming today. I do have one question, and that is, why are you seeking reinstatement? what do you plan to do? I see in your application you want to go to grad school. I want to know, like, what's your focus, or
Sure.
what's your plan?
Sure. I first and foremost, going through the nursing program, that was a lot of work, and I can't just forget about that and not rectify something that I did wrong. And I really enjoyed being a nurse. I like to be around people. I like to help people. I think one of my strengths was being gentle with people. And as far as graduate school, one of my classes actually changed. I was actually going to try and get into the social work program, undergrad program at HSU, but with the amount of hours that it required, I wasn't able to work. This degree allows me to work full time plus continue in education. And the graduate program, with being in Humboldt County, there's not a lot of nursing impaction is huge in the RN program. There is no more nursing program at HSU. And one of the features that one of the county offers is they can do stipends with a graduate program as social work. And that decision comes from me getting older, and I just don't have enough time to start throwing my application out, especially when I do have a really good relationship with my boys at this point. But to sacrifice one career to be around them is more important.
Ms. Bass de Martinez.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
Doing okay?
Okay.
Breathe.
Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned you currently have a plan, and that's why you wish to have your license available to you. Help us understand how you will use that license in terms of what you just described as advancing in an academic program.
Sure. Yeah.
How does that work?
So, with the reinstatement of the license, there's availability of getting it more into the mental health aspect of the vocational nursing side up in Humboldt County. With that, I can utilize my undergraduate degree to get into possible case management. But maybe I hope I'm answering your question. But as far as getting my license, my plan is to continue going to school. Well, hopefully I can someday work as a nurse again.
I want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly.
Sure.
And regardless of the
That's correct.
Ms. Mendoza.
No questions at this time.
Ms. James Perez.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
So when you started out today, when you came up here and you started talking to us, the first thing you said is, I want to apologize to everyone in this room. So it seems to me that you recognize that at St. Luke's you did something wrong. But I need you to tell me why, in the accusation it says you obtained and possessed narcotics that had been prescribed to St. Luke's residents, the patients there. Why is that wrong?
Because when I decided to be a nurse, to take something that wasn't mine is wrong. To take something to alter my personality was wrong. And the fact of, as being a nurse, you uphold integrity, and I broke that. I can't make up an excuse. I don't have one. What I did was wrong.
And then your revocation was a default, which means you never responded to the accusation that was sent to you in 2011. Why? Why did you not fight it? Why did you let your license be revoked?
Probably the situation I I gave up, I guess. I did not want, I shouldn't say I guess, I did give up. I was so ashamed.
Did you receive the accusation? You received it.
I did a while ago because I didn't have an address, and
But in 2011, you did receive it.
yeah, I did.
And you chose not to.
I did.
On page A5, it should be in the packet that you have there. Maybe Mr. McGee can help you.
8-5.
A5.
Oh,
A is an apple and the number 5. You say you wrote or you checked the box that you completed a rehab program, but there's no dates listed.
Oh. I apologize. I'm looking on the certificate that I.
Do you see where I'm talking about? Page A5.
I see.
It says on the bottom rehab program, and you
Oh, yeah.
checked yes,
I did.
but then there's no information about the dates or what kind of program you went to.
Right. I apologize. It was a while ago. And it doesn't. It says on October 24th, 2011. So it was a 2-month program. I started in August. And received this certificate. It was an outpatient program.
So it was outpatient
Yeah.
from August to October 2011.
That's correct.
2 months. Outpatient program.
And he's indicating to page A12.
You said that your sobriety date from alcohol was 10/1/15. I believe you said. Can you tell me your sobriety date from pain meds?
Yeah, 6/1/2010. And no issues prior.
Maybe you miswrote it in your packet. It says
Oh.
6/20.
Oh, sorry.
2010.
Maybe I'm getting my dates. I went over this about 3 times before I came in. And
On page A6,
A6.
it
Yeah,
says
6/20.
yes,
6/20/2010.
Okay. And I noticed that we have a letter that you brought from your therapist that you're seeing, from Miss Rogers.
Yeah.
And she writes that she has been seeing you for therapy and that you're working on your personal growth is something that she wrote in her letter.
Yeah.
In what ways have you personally grown since seeing Miss Rogers?
Prior, when I had gone through everything like this, like I said, I turned into a recluse. I just gave up. I didn't really forge through as far as employment or anything. And I hate to use this cliche. I guess I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I said, if I can't, one of the things that, as far as employment, I tried, and you're not the most attractive employee with this track record. And as I said, I go back to the OIG. You can't even be I couldn't even be a janitor. Not that that's an issue. It just, or a secretary within a medical office when that is checked. And on top of that, of what I did, I was not employable, and I couldn't deal with that anymore. So as far as personal growth and self-awareness, I threw myself into school, and this is.
And you mentioned a couple times that it was very difficult for you to find employment.
Yeah.
But I believe you said you are now working.
I am.
How did you find that job?
I actually, when I first signed up to go back to school, I was not sure how it was going to go, and I saw a work-study program, and I just applied, and I guess I got lucky. They hired me, and I did a good job, and so they hired me into a full-time position.
So that was through your school?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks.
Ms. Turner.
Thank you. All right, so part of your issue, you had the accusation, but it was also a default. Do you understand the impact of not responding to the call for hearing on these issues?
I do at the time. I didn't know the ramification at the time. There were so many other things that I was dealing with. I didn't know which one to separate as far as the severity for risk to benefit. I am fully aware of the mistake that I made.
And you understand that when you don't respond, that it could result in almost an automatic revocation, and that you will lose your opportunity to be heard to avoid that? Do you understand that now?
I do.
So you're undergoing counseling. Do you believe that the counseling that you're receiving is helping you with your emotional issues that you mentioned, fear of crowds, self-confidence issues, things that related to loss of your home and your children? Is that helping you?
Definitely. Yes.
And so you mentioned, you talked about the drug diversion, and you talked about, integrity. Tell me about what impact there is when you divert medication on the patients in the hospital or clinical setting you're working in has. What you've learned about that.
Sure. The impact is the patient might not get the medicine that they absolutely need. I mean, that's bottom line. And then the snowball effect of what happened is unforgivable.
If you were granted some sort of reinstatement and probation, would you be willing to continue undergoing drug testing?
Oh, of course. This is something that I've made a decision on on many reasons. It's what I do right now as far as my counseling, my meetings, and the drug testing. It's for me to continue this, and whether or not what happens after today, this is still going to continue. So
Drug testing as well as the counseling.
yeah.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Carpenter.
Yes, Mr. Kamrud, and am I saying that correctly?
Yeah.
Well, first I'd like to commend you on your academic pursuits and your excellent grades.
Thank you.
And thank you for the additional information. With regard to your therapy, is this something that you see yourself continuing into the future, just as a matter of dealing with life itself?
Yeah, it's a fixture of mine I have to for a long duration. It's not something that I guess that I need to say to somebody that I'm doing the counseling. It's for me personally. It helps, and it'll be something that I continue for a long time.
So it's not just something that helps you with sobriety?
It is, definitely. It helps me in a lot of aspects. Sobriety, I guess being in crowds, I guess. And I know that seems odd, but there are some other issues that I do talk with her about that in turn, as far as esteem and confidence, I guess in turn, that those are extreme triggers for me with addiction, with any type of addiction. And in order to continue therapy with that actually helps, I guess, with the addiction process. I apologize for the wording. All right.
You're fine, thank you. Speaking of triggers, you had mentioned that the earlier groups that you had attended didn't work well for you because most of the participants just discussed their triggers. Why was this something that didn't?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there was a few groups that discussed the drug use and and would at times possibly glorify that, and it just wasn't an atmosphere that was conducive for the purpose. And with meetings, I guess it's just a comfortability, and I didn't stop looking. I did find a group that I can fit with. I don't know if it's generational, but I really do. When you feel comfortable in an environment to at least talk about your issues, I think that's when some of that therapy can happen. So that's why I found that. So I just wanted to be honest with that situation.
No, thank you. And just one other question, just because I'm not familiar with this. The letter from the Office of the Inspector General, you're eligible to participate as a provider of services.
Yep.
I don't know what these services are.
Sure. So when a physician, therapist, nurse loses a license by revocation, you get put on the Office of Inspector General list. And so any business that reimburses for Medicare, you can't work. You're excluded. And so in a small rural community, when that's a primary when that's one of the primary employment agent or options, that this actually was almost as important as gaining employment with along with my degrees. So there was an extensive reinstatement packet that I had to fill out and be in constant contact with Washington, D.C.
Okay, I understand. I'm from Shasta County.
Sorry.
So this is saying that if you were to be reinstated as a vocational nurse, then you would be qualified to work in Medicare.
No, I'm already excluded. This is just a confirmation letter that they sent me for the packet that I filled out. So this is because I did one of the stipulations was if you got your license back, you could fill out the reinstatement process or have time lapsed. And I had time lapsed, and I asked them if I could start the application process, and they allowed that, and I went from there. So
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. McGee.
Thank you, Your Honor, and thank you too, Mr. Cameron. Just a few questions. So if I heard you correctly, and this is stated in your petition also as noted, but you have a sobriety date of June 20th, 2010 from pain medications?
That's correct.
Okay, and this is before the date of actual revocation of your license, is that correct?
That's correct. When the investigation happened was quite a ways before the actual revocation happened.
Okay, and you also stated that you entered outpatient rehabilitation in or about August 2011?
That's correct.
And could you explain the circumstances where you have a June 20th, 2010 sobriety date for pain medications, and yet you're entering into rehabilitation and, roughly a year and 3 months later? What led to your rehabilitation, your outpatient treatment?
Sure, that was part of a court-ordered dismissal and upon sealing my case.
Okay, so is this something that you were ordered to do?
Yes.
Okay, so it wasn't a voluntary move for you to
No.
enter rehabilitation?
No.
Okay, and your sobriety date for alcohol is October 2015, October 1st, 2015, is that correct?
That's correct.
And what circumstances led you to quit drinking at that point in time? Did you hit some type of bottom?
Yeah, so I actually tried to stop not numerous times, but a few times, and stints became longer and longer and longer, and I am remarried at this point to somebody that's a very good support system with me, and like I said, it was something that never served me right, and I didn't receive any professional help with that. I just stopped, and I tried to stop prior to that. And as far as time went on, each chunk ate longer and longer and longer, and that's where I'm at right now.
Okay, and you were being questioned on statements made in your petition, whereas you, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you essentially stated that you weren't going to support groups because the topics of drug use and whatnot during the meetings provided a trigger for you.
Yes.
So if that's the case with the support group, if you're to be reinstated as a vocational nurse and working around medications themselves, would that provide a trigger for you?
No, absolutely not. Not with the support system I have in place right now.
Okay.
Oh, no, absolutely not with the support system I have in place right now.
And you're attending how many meetings a week?
1 meeting a week, and sometimes 2 counseling meetings a week as well.
Did you ever complete, for example, 90 meetings in 90 days?
I did.
Okay. And what step did you say you were working on right now?
I am back on 8,
And-
making amends with everybody. It's something that I cannot. I'll be there. I'll come back to that step until I'm for a long time.
And is step 8 making amends, or is that some other step?
Is making amends to ones I've harmed, or ones I'm probably not stating that verbatim, but that is a step that is extremely hard for me, and it's personal to me, is to ask those people to apologize to anybody that I've hurt.
And since the date of your license being revoked until today, have you been convicted of any new crimes that we don't know about?
No.
Any arrests that we don't know about?
No.
And I have no further questions. Thank you, Mr. Cameron.
Do the board members have any follow-up questions?
Yes, I had just wanted to have one clarification. When you mentioned topics in your rehab group created triggers for you, what do you mean by that?
I guess conversation of glorifying the drug that those people were trying to abstain from, and not clearly invested in sobriety.
Talking about it made you desire.
It was a trigger, yeah.
But you're working on that
Yeah.
through counseling
I'm at a good meeting right now, yeah.
and other meetings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay,
Yes, I do.
go ahead, Ms.
I just
Starner.
want to make sure I'm understanding what was just said. In response to my colleague's question, you said hearing about drugs in a certain context was a trigger.
Yeah, just talking about it as if it wasn't, if the individual wasn't trying to work the steps. I'm trying to look for the right words to say. Maybe they were there because they had to be, not because they wanted to be, and it wasn't talked about, and talked about in a sense of maybe wanting, after that meeting was done, to engage in probably some bad behavior.
So that they were desirous
Yeah.
of such.
Yeah.
Different scenario, you're working with a patient that is in a tremendous amount of pain and is desirous of the pain meds. And they mentioned that. Could that be also a trigger?
No.
Help me understand why not.
To treat the person's physical ailment as opposed to treat their, I guess, psychological addiction. For me to separate those two.
Thank you.
I do have. I do have
Ms.
one
Amazon.
question. Thank you so much for your time here. My question is, I would like to know can you describe trigger? What does that mean to you? Like, what is that?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I have there are two main triggers for me. Is I'm a constant nervous person that I don't, which correlates with confidence, and I just, those are two subjects that I'm working on with my psychologist as far as talking with her. And if I get put in a situation where I don't have something down repetition all the time, I fumble over my words like I am right now. I still get nervous and I still have low confidence, but it doesn't make it a trigger as much when I still see my psychologist and my NA meetings. And I hope I answered that question correctly. I'm sorry.
I guess my question is about when you say trigger, does that mean you are now desiring the drug? When you hear other people talking, glorifying the drug, I think is your words. Is that what you mean by trigger, or do you mean triggered as you get nervous, you want to exit the room? I just don't understand what you mean by trigger.
Yeah, it's just something where I have to have a little more confidence. It's a trigger that sends me down this, I get pretty emotional as far as it helps me take a step back. I guess now it's those triggers that I don't know what you. I'm sorry. It's they're emotional triggers that I'm trying to work on as far as going to counseling and it's not a trigger to use any type of mind-altering substances. They're triggers that actually send me into a, I guess I'll stay in my house for a couple days now, so I don't have to see anybody or deal with anybody. But I guess that's what it is. Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think I understand.
Sorry.
Okay. Is there anything else you have to present?
I don't.
Okay. Then that concludes the matter. Mr. McGee, do you have follow-up questions?
Yeah, just to make sure we enter Exhibit 2 for Mr. Cameron into evidence.
Thank you for that. Reminder, Exhibit 2 is admitted into evidence. And with that, the record is closed and the matter submitted, and we are off the record in this matter. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to me.
So we're going to take a 5-minute recess before calling the next matter.
No.
Good, Brian. How are you? Nice. Readily take a flight. It's Sacramento. Traveled to the state for about.
Oh, I understand, sure.
Got in and got rental cars and everything else. Got rental cars, moved to public. Probably on his last legs, and he lives.
Fresno area, north of Fresno.
Want to make sure.
South of Stock. Had an opportunity to stay in Stockton a couple of times.
I remember that.
Most of their police. Town, and you think that he'll. Scout went to a restaurant just up the street.
Oh my goodness. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so it's really a shame because I read a story. They tried. At the height of the bubble, so pay the obligations that they had made.
Okay, so I won't be like. But thank you.
When the lights are on. Figured that.
That is. His is a veteran community. He's been there. And I have something I'm listening to on tape, which I don't do very often. They do lectures. They get the really.
Professors?
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
professors.
sure.
They have one on the Old Testament that I've been about. Ever heard the whole thing before? Or is that? I don't remember her name off the top. Not done from the perspective of a version, I believe. I don't have time to go through these in a day. It's been a while since I've read it. I've covered so I figured I'd try. Opportunity, realized halfway up there, oh shoot, oh yeah, they're great. I have listened to a lot of them. They're really have just some fantastic history from technology, physics, just on and on and on. Government, comparative religion. A lot of their lectures, and always enjoy them. You can listen to the lectures. You don't have to worry about the test afterwards. Kind of nice.